All this morning, we have excerpts from an exclusive interview with Malala Yousufzai, the Pakistani teen who was shot by a Taliban gunman 1 year ago today because she'd insisted for years that girls be allowed to go to school. Malala gave her only Canadian interview to the CBC's Anna Maria Tremonti, the host of The Current, and talked to Anna Maria about how life changed for her after the Taliban moved in and took over her home region. That's Swat Valley in Pakistan.
Like in the movie, something bad was happening in the movie of our life. The Taliban, the terrorists, we call them, because they are terrorists and they are extremists. They blasted schools, more than 400 schools only in Swat. The worst thing was that they were against the education of girls. And in the month of January 2009, they said that no girl is allowed to go to school. And at that time, I said, why shall we be silent? Why don't we speak up for our rights? Why don't we tell the world what is happening in Swat?
It's exactly what she did, and she was targeted by the Taliban for it. As I said, a year since she was shot in the face on the way home from school. But she wasn't alone that day. She was with two friends, and they too were hit by bullets in the attack. Our Nala Ayed has tracked those two down. She wanted to find out how their lives have changed 1 year on. There's Nala with us in London. Tell us a little bit about these girls you found and who they are and what they're doing 1 year on.
Well, Heather, they're somewhat like Malala in that they were both once ordinary schoolgirls who were living in the Swat Valley. And if they stuck out at the time, it was because simply they too wanted to become doctors. One is 15 and one is 17. Until that day that they were shot, that they happened to be sitting next to Malala when that Taliban gunman attacked, they were, they were just ordinary schoolgirls. They were both injured, as you mentioned, and in the outrage after the incident, they actually became kind of minor celebrities back home. They were interviewed several times by local networks and newspapers. But unlike the Malala, they actually had to remain in Swat Valley after all of this, and they had to live firsthand the aftermath of what happened. So when they went back to school, they endured threats, and they had to be accompanied by armed guards, if you can believe it, at all times while they were going to and back from school. And both their families were actually forced out of their neighborhoods because they were considered a security threat. Eventually, Heather, they came here to the UK to an international school that offered them a scholarship, and that is where we met them.
So they're now living and studying in the UK now, Nala, 1 year on?
Yep, exactly.
And what else has happened to them in the year since?
Well, we talked to them about what things would have been like had they not gone through this horrific trauma that they had gone through. And Kainat, who is the older one at 17, said that she sort of sees that horrible day as kind of a sacrifice, not just, by themselves, but certainly by Malala, who endured a great deal of pain to get to where she is right now. She said that she feels that attitudes had started to shift in Swat Valley about girls' education. But what's happened really, Heather, has really made them very passionate advocates, just like Malala, of girls' education. And they are speaking publicly. Even last night, Shazia was actually speaking in front of a crowd talking about the importance of why girls should be educated. So they've become advocates, and quite inspiring ones as well.
Oh, indeed, and we're going to find out more. But advocates and activists, although on a lesser scale, if I can put it that way, than Malala, who a year later, as you know now, has become this international focal point and symbol and potentially a Nobel Peace Prize contender. What do her friends think about Malala today?
Well, Heather, it was actually really hard while we were talking to them to get them to say things without mentioning Malala. They're huge fans, as you can imagine, and they really invoke her name because she's so young and so accomplished despite her age. She was also responsible for them actually getting to the school. She was the one who was offered the scholarship initially, and because she went somewhere else, she suggested that these two girls go to school. So you can imagine they're very big fans.
Wonderful. Nala, thank you very much for bringing this story to our attention, and the full report is coming up on The National tonight. And also, much more of the exclusive interview with Malala herself, her conversation with Anna Maria Tremonti, all of that on The National, 9 and 11 Eastern and Pacific on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on CBC Television, and 10:30 in Newfoundland.